Imagine playing Monopoly, but one player starts with half the board already owned, gets paid double every time they pass go, and can print their own money whenever they want. You'd call that cheating, right? But that's not a game. That's the actual financial system you're living in. And the wildest part? It's completely legal. Let me show you how the game is rigged and why nobody in power wants to change it. Here's what we've been told our entire lives. Work hard, climb the ladder, save your money, and you'll get ahead. But then, reality hits. You work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you do everything right, and somehow you're still living paycheck to paycheck while someone else who barely works is buying their third rental property. So what's going on? Are they just smarter, luckier, more disciplined? No. They're playing by a different set of rules, rules that were designed to benefit people who already have money and keep everyone else running in place. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's not hidden. It's right there in the open, written into the structure of how money works. The game is rigged, and I'm going to show you exactly how. Let's start with inflation. You've been told inflation is just prices going up, like it's some natural force like gravity or the weather. But inflation isn't natural. It's a policy choice. Here's how it works. Governments and central banks can create money whenever they want. They do this by lowering interest rates, buying assets, or just printing it outright. When more money enters the system, each dollar becomes worth less. That's inflation. Now here's the rigged part. When inflation happens, it doesn't hurt everyone equally. If you're holding cash, saving it in a bank account like you were told to, you lose. Your money slowly loses its purchasing power. What could buy you a house 30 years ago can barely buy you a car today. But if you own assets, real estate, stocks, businesses, you win, because asset prices go up with inflation. So inflation is a wealth transfer mechanism. It takes value from people who hold cash and gives it to people who own assets. And who owns most of the assets? The wealthy. Who holds most of their wealth in cash or low-interest savings? Everyone else. This isn't an accident, it's by design. The system punishes you for doing what you were told was responsible, saving money, and it rewards the people who already have enough money to own things. That's the first way the game is rigged. Now let's talk about debt. You've been told debt is bad. Avoid it. Pay it off as fast as possible. Stay out of it at all costs. And for most people, that advice makes sense because the debt available to them is terrible. Credit cards at 20% interest, student loans, payday loans, these kinds of debt destroy you. But here's what they don't tell you. The wealthy use debt differently. They borrow money at low interest rates, 2%, 3%, sometimes less, and use it to buy assets that grow faster than the interest rate. Think about it. If you can borrow $1 million at 3% interest and invest it in real estate or a business that returns 8% per year, you're making 5% profit on borrowed money. That's called leverage, and it's how empires are built. But you don't get access to that kind of debt. Banks don't offer you $1 million loans at 3%. You get high-interest consumer debt designed to keep you trapped. Meanwhile, corporations and the ultra-wealthy get cheap money, use it to multiply their wealth, and the gap just keeps widening. Same word, debt, but two completely different games. For you, it's a trap. For them, it's a tool. That's the second way the game is rigged. Now here's the big one, wages versus assets. Most people earn their money through wages. You trade your time and labor for a paycheck. And that paycheck, it barely keeps up with inflation. In fact, when you adjust for inflation, wages for most workers have been flat for decades. You're working just as hard, maybe harder, but your purchasing power hasn't increased. Meanwhile, asset prices have skyrocketed. The stock market has multiplied. Real estate has exploded. If you owned assets 20 years ago, you're way wealthier today, even if you did nothing. But if you've been working for wages and saving in cash, you've stayed in the same place, or worse, fallen behind. Here's why this matters. Wage growth is slow and limited. There are only so many hours in a day you can work. Your income has a ceiling. But asset growth is exponential. Assets compound. They multiply while you sleep. So the system creates two classes of people: those who live off wages, most people; those who live off assets, the wealthy. And the gap between them grows every single year. Not because one group works harder, but because the rules are written to favor asset owners. You're told to work harder, get a better job, earn more, and sure, that helps. But it's like trying to win a race where the other person is on a motorcycle and you're on foot. Working harder isn't the problem. The problem is you're playing a game where effort doesn't determine the outcome. Ownership does. That's the third way the game is rigged. So why is this legal? Why doesn't anyone fix it? Because the people who benefit from this system are the same people who make the rules. Politicians, central bankers, corporate executives, they own assets, lots of them. They benefit from inflation. They benefit from cheap debt. They benefit from rising asset prices. Why would they change a game they're winning? And here's the kicker. They don't frame it as rigged. They frame it as the economy. They say things like, a little inflation is healthy, or the market is performing well, or we need to stimulate growth. But what they really mean is, we're going to create conditions that make asset owners richer, and if you don't own assets, good luck. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as intended for the people it was designed to serve. And that's why it's still legal. So what do? You can't change the system by yourself, but you can stop playing by the rules that are designed to keep you behind. Stop holding all your wealth in cash. Start owning things that go up in value. Stop seeing debt as universally bad. Learn how the wealthy use it as leverage. Stop relying only on wages. Build equity. Own assets. Create income streams that don't require your time. The game is rigged. But once you see the rules, you can start playing strategically instead of just hoping hard work will be enough. Because here's the truth, nobody's coming to make this fair. You have to learn the real rules and use them. The game is rigged, but that doesn't mean you can't win. Subscribe for more truths about how money really works.